2020. How's it going?
Yo, Phil, we could sum it up in one question. Who could ask for anything more?
I know, right? Life is so good. And that's a great outlook to have because I feel that you are a product of your circumstance and your attitude, right? So, and we talked briefly a few months ago and you have such a great attitude and outlook on life. And so I wanted to get you on to just talk about your journey through life because this is going to sound kind of blunt, but you died
You betcha.
and you got brought back. So I obviously want to talk about that. I want to talk about your journey as a human being. So let's start at the start. How did you come up with the name 2020? How did that happen?
I was reading a little known book by a weird guy named Napoleon Hill. It was called Think and Grow Rich, probably one of the best selling books of the last century. And I'm that weird guy on the internet. I hunt shit down. So I found some rare recordings of Napoleon Hill where he squealed like a little girl because his publisher called him up and said, "Listen, Nappy, we're going to publish this next week with the title Use the Boodle to get the noodle if you don't come up with a title."
My God.
And Napoleon Hill, swear to God, I'll find you the recording. He squealed like a little girl and said, it'll ruin me. So he went to bed and he did I need a title. And he woke up with Think and Grow Rich, and it changed the world.
Yeah.
So I went, that's cool. Right. Yeah. So I'm going to do the same thing. So I go to bed and I go to the big cheese. I said, listen, cheese, all right, I need something like that. Give it to me. Sock it. And I woke up with change your name to Mr. 2020. And I thought, that's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Next night I go to bed, it's geez, listen to me, come on, right? let's do it right this time. Right. So it's the third day in a row. And I'm telling my wife at the time, I said, listen, I got a problem, right? Nappy Hill, think we're rich. I talked to the cheese gives me this is what I got. And it's only taken me, I did that when I was 40 years old. I did the name change thing. I got my work was about vision, clarity, focus, all that stuff. Blindfolded as a hostage, taking the blindfold off of your life. But it's only taken me almost 20 years now of exploring it to get what's vision really about.
Right.
And I come from the same culture as you, essentially. In North America, we got two cultures. The predominant is Judeo-Christian, and the historic is Native American. And in both of those cultures, when you experienced a change, a transformation, an insight, that your name could change.
Yeah.
And so my name changed. And then I've been exploring ever since. Who's this guy that talks about living with vision? And it's become such a cool adventure of exploring who the hell is Mr. 2020
Yeah.
and why I'm here.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely an interesting journey to get there. I've never heard anybody refer to God as the big cheese before.
Well, the holy Swiss, the big
Yeah.
cheese.
I love it. So let's talk about, let's get the elephant out of the room. So the prison riot that happened. Can you, obviously if it's a triggering thing, I'm sorry, but,
Not at
um,
all.
so if you want to dive into that a little bit and explain what happened to people?
Yeah, I gave up on my dreams, Phil. I wanted to be a cop, and I became a cop. I worked part-time for 3 departments, which meant I worked 8 hours a week or 80. And I just wanted to teach martial arts and help people learn. And so long story short, I'm working way too much, making way too little. And my buddy says, hey, why don't you come work at the prison? Right? After 10 years, you can lock in your pension. You can apply for the PSP or liquor control, whatever. And I sold my dreams and went to work. I sold my dreams. I went to work. 4 months in, we had a 3-day prison riot, and I was captured and beat to death on day 2. And it was by far, at the time, the best and worst thing that ever happened to me.
Okay.
And then, I took a souvenir home. I had PTSD. That was good fun. And that just put me on my journey of how many times do we sell out on our dreams and become hostages to safety, to
Yeah.
security, to whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And again, now I look back at the best thing that could have happened to me. I mean, I could have put in 20 years, got really fat, and be dead from a heart attack by now. So it's like, all right.
So after that, obviously that's a very life-changing thing to go through, no pun intended. What was there any other factor that said, you know what? I'm going to cash my chips in. I'm going to do what I want to do. When did that moment of clarity like that happen for you? Was it right after that, or did it take a little bit? How did that play out?
It took a while. I was one of those guys, I almost went through decorating the ceiling with my brains. Yeah, I got to be honest about it. Yeah, it's like I hit bottom and realized I got to do something a little different here. What saved me with that was I couldn't do that to my grandma. She'd had enough tragedy in her life, and it's like, you know what? She is not going to hear about me painting the ceiling. That is not going to happen. And yeah, I learned NLP before I went to a special training for cops. It was interview interrogation, hostage negotiation using NLP. And I got back into that because uh, the only way I could sleep was to drink Budweiser all night and watch Tony Robbins. So Tony was on TV. He's the only guy on TV, and I'm drinking Budweiser till I pass out. And he just reminded me this might be good. Second one was this crazy guy that taught some mystical stuff, Neville Goddard. And the third thing that really, really cinched the deal for me was as a PTSD guy, I didn't want to hang out with humanity anymore. Humanity scared me. So I figured, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to some Native American peoples, my elders, learn how to live in the woods and disappear. And learning how to live in the woods with the native skills, in other words, coming back to my senses,
Mhm.
got me out of my head.
Yeah.
And that's what opened the door for Uh, wow, Phil, we can tune into each other. We can tune into nature. We can just play our sacred song and not in a kumbaya kind of way, as in I think everyone here like has their own song to sing, their own contribution to the symphony. And I learned that listening to the songbirds before sunrise. So while
Fucking
trying not
beautiful.
to get, while trying not to get caught camping on private ground and state game land 51.
I know you were telling me that you were the thing that that cracked me up when our first conversation was, you were there was people that were trying to cut a tree down and use it for firewood, and you had dressed up like Sasquatch or something. Is that
Well, here's what dressing up like Sasquatch means. You're naked, covered
right?
with some leaves and shit. You use some charcoal to darken some things, and you're invisible. The problem is you're naked, right? But you're also invisible, which gives you some really because your camouflage is made out of the local material.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to be invisible. You get to be seen once in a while if you want to be. And when I came to Australia back in 2010, 2011, the Bigfoot Sasquatch sightings in southwestern Pennsylvania went to almost zero.
Can't imagine what.
Nobody can explain why, you know. But it's funny because since nature helped me so much, I got very possessive with. There's dead wood and there's a live tree. You don't take my tree out.
Right,
If you do, I'm going to steal your beer, move your car keys around. I'm just going to screw with you in ways you can't imagine, and then
right,
maybe let you see me, which will make it even worse.
right. Yeah,
So, so that was therapy, Phil.
of course. No, 100%. Like, I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that we have a symbiotic relationship with nature, and if you look at it from a Judeo-Christian standpoint, which I do, I believe that we were put on this earth to be stewards of the earth.
Absolutely.
We are not here to destroy it. We are here to take our little chunk, live off the land. We're not supposed to drive in cars. We're not because road rage is a prime example of why we are not supposed to be in vehicles. You know what I mean? And it's literally because I suffer from fucking road rage terribly. But
Hey,
it's not like I'm mad at the person for what they did. It's the fact that they feel their time is more important than my life. Does that make sense? You know, when
I
like when they cut,
totally, I,
yeah,
I
and it's
totally
like,
get.
yeah, and we as a species have our heads so far up our collective asses, thinking that the universe revolves around us when it fucking doesn't. You know, it's like we are insignificant in most ways, but as I was saying before, we are here to take care of this planet. But the problem is you're never going to stop it because you're never going to stop greed, and then the greed part is what really chaps my ass because these people know better, but they don't choose to do better. How was it living with the
Oh
Native
yeah,
Americans?
uh, I was born April 1st, April Fool's Day. And one of the popes a long time ago, I believe, made up the term April Fools because that's when the people close to the earth celebrated the new year. It's springtime, the budding tree's moon. And that was associated with morning when the sun's coming up, the sun rises in the sky. And here's just a little thing that I learned that I didn't know I was learning. They taught me that I was born in the budding tree's moon. That's when the year begins. And you've got a whole new lifetime every day because the sun comes up. And so they oriented according to the sunrise. And I grew up in a culture that oriented according to the North Star. The culture I grew up in said the new year begins in the winter when it's the hardest time. So beginnings happen when there's hardship. And they said, no, no, no. Beginnings happen whenever you sing your sacred song. The bird's song lifts the sun up in the sky. And I just got my brain fried because every bird has their own song. They spread out so that the song touches everyone everywhere all the time. And before the sun comes up, the birds sing. And that little lesson has taught me, Phil, I can restart at any time. I can restart at any time. And another thing was when you rub two sticks together, you're unleashing stored sunlight.
Mm,
You and I, in one way, are sticks. And when we rub together, we're unleashing sunlight that's never been unleashed in the world.
okay.
And it's these little things that I got by yeah, because I had to abandon my head
Yeah.
and I had to abandon my past. And they just shared with me something simple called awareness.
Yeah.
And because of awareness, my whole life changed.
Yeah. Well, it's like waking up for the first time, right? It's like that,
Every day.
you're using your eyes for the first time. It's like you said, you sell out your dreams. I don't even know what my dreams are because I've never really thought about it. I just do stuff. Like, I mean, I guess a dream of mine is just to live a happy existence. I keep the bar low, and I'm pretty happy, dude, for the most part. I got a great job. I do this. I get to talk to cool people like you. I got a wonderful girlfriend who takes care of me. Unfortunately, some people in their heads or in their souls, they crave struggle and they have to find that struggle. And yeah, and I
They're
don't like
they're addicted to it, and we
yeah.
all can. Yeah.
And it's really this thing of people that they love drama and they just, I call them like spiritual vampires. Because like all they want to do is just they want to stay on their phone. They want to be part of that social media matrix. And I guess that I am too if I'm doing this. But this is just to get, for me to gain experience talking to people, because like you and I never would have met. You're ever how many thousands of miles away in Australia. There are good things and bad things about technology, but I think as we're progressing towards the eventual AI overlord takeover, that we're gonna find out the darker side of tech. There's a reason they say go out and touch grass because it's good to go out and get into nature. Like my girlfriend, I will go sometimes because I'm usually tired from work or whatever. But we have a bunch of trails where I live, so we get to get a little vitamin D from the sun and we get to breathe fresh air. I think that we as people we don't think about that anymore because it's the next task to get done to get through our day. And we don't ever take time to sit back and relish in the moment anymore. It's this like, to sit down and enjoy a meal with an old friend or to sit down and enjoy a conversation with a stranger like we're doing right now. It's
Mm.
just those are the things of life to me that are tangible versus a new gadget or a new doodad or something like that. And I really think that people don't focus on the connection as they do the to brag about the connection. Does that make sense? You know?
When I hear you talking, I immediately notice we can measure our days in minutes, or we can enjoy the magic within moments. And the magic within moments happen when people like you and I, or I say film. Phil, in the world, there's two kind of people: right? Friends and future friends. And I take that second group and convert them as fast as I can. 'Cause I just want to love you, man. I just want to. Yeah, I want our hearts and souls and bodies to touch each other in some way.
Absolutely. Yet again, it's that connection, and we've cut that off completely in this time. But I don't know if it ever will go back again. Like in Italy, every Sunday, it's they shut everything down, and it's food, family all day, and it's fantastic because they get to connect with their family. Everybody comes down, and everybody enjoys the day of food, and just it's basically fellowship together. You know, and I really think that, like I just said 10 times, we've just gotten away from it. What's life like in Australia? I'm sure it was a bit of a culture shock when you got down there.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate it would be all that different, but one day my wife comes home. We only had one car at first. I was here on a temporary visa, no use buying a car while I'm bouncing out all the time.
Right.
And I go to the mall, Phil. She gets home at like 4:30 and says, "Cool, I got to go to the mall, do some shopping." Well, by the time I get to the mall, it's 5 o'clock. And guess what's happening? Everyone's closing. I'm like, "Hey, how y'all doing? What's going on? Like, is there a fire or something?" Like, and they're looking at me like I'm nuts.
Yeah.
And I go home and she says, "Yeah, they shut the shops at 5." I'm like, "Go on, how's anyone do any shopping?" And it's like, they all get to go home and be with their family. And I went, I like that. It's an inconvenience, but it's an inconvenience that I'll engage because I love it if people went home and hung out with the dog and pet the wife, walk the dog, or whatever they do, right? Yeah.
Whatever they do.
I always get confused, pet the wife, walk the dog, whatever, right? So it's all good.
Thing is I think in this country, we're always worried about the hustle. I'm without children, as anybody knows me, because it just wasn't something that I wanted to do. Like I was talking to somebody earlier today, and the kids, when they come home from school, they go upstairs and they play video games until it's time for dinner, and then the families don't see each other, and it's just this disconnect. And I think that that's what's kind of causing a lot of the societal problems that we have in America. I don't know how things are. Obviously, they're different in Australia because they probably a little bit more family oriented down there. Do you are you in like a big area, or are you like in more of the outback? Where are you at as far? I don't. You don't have to give your exact location, obviously,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean,
Oh, I live in a really cool place called Eltham.
okay,
And Eltham, yeah, again, I'm the guy. I go on the internet and I research shit because that's what I do.
yeah,
Eltham means village of God.
okay,
It's an El Shaddai, Elohim. So El is God, El, Tham is in village. So I live in the village of God, which is pretty cool. Technically, it's a suburb of Melbourne, the city, but it really is almost like a medium-sized village. It's just sweet. So our particular plot has a steep hill and a little creek, and we got a lot of trees. So we're actually set up pretty well. There's a lot of suburbia around us, but Australia's pretty cool because if you go way out in the outback, it's dust. If you go to the city, it's warehousing. And where we are here, I'm really blessed to have the swim and gym 1.5 songs away from home. So I can talk to Victoria, or 1.5 songs later, I strut in. And I formed what I call the Cool Kids Club between 11 and 1. We all get together and people exercise, and I talk to everyone, so which is nice. But I think we still have in this country, when I took my citizenship test, part of it was something called mateship.
okay,
And mateship's pretty cool. If I could say growing up in the US, my feeling of the US was rugged individualists.
okay,
John Wayne, I'm going to do it my way. Frank Sinatra. And I have nothing against any of that. It's that culture. The historic Australian culture is mateship. Hey, mate. In other words, you good? I'm
right,
good. All right, we good. Hey, mate, you good? Yeah. And the historic feeling of mateship and yeah, Phil, let's give it a fair go. So that's another weird phrase, but it's what we're about here. Just you know, you good? Yeah, just yeah, it's deep in there. I When I started going to the shops when I first moved here, all the women say, "No problem, love."
yeah,
Wow, you're calling me what I am. I sort of appreciate that, and it's just I love Billy Bob Thornton because when he calls a woman, yeah, darling or sweetie, he's always soft and respectful. And we've got a lot of that here, which I treasure. And I think it's important because PTSD was nothing more than isolation,
yeah,
not a control and isolation. Being a 59-year-old guy, the temptation is always isolation. Guys isolate, especially whenever we get in trouble. We go into the skull, uh, uh, Golgotha. So the skull is Golgotha. We go into there, it's hell. Uh, and we're designed to, hey, Phil, you good? We're designed for that. And that again came back from the natives and growing up next to some old people. Yeah, the old Polacks and Italians. And
yeah.
good, man. It's good.
So you know why they call it Golgotha, right?
Tell me more. I know what I know, but I'd love to know what you
So
know.
apparently, according to something I read on the internet, that is the Golgotha where Christ was crucified, is where they house the skull of Adam. That's why it's called the Hill of the Skull. So I don't
Okay.
know if the internet could be off on that one. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's how it originated. Was that's where they allegedly buried Adam. So little tidbit for the fans. I'm such a dork. Sorry. Me personally, in my job, I work in the operating room, as I've said ad nauseum on this show. Sorry, listeners, but you'll get over it. So I've seen some very terrible things in my career, right? Because I used to work at a level one trauma center. I've seen the worst of humanity, and I've seen some of the best things happen. So I got out of that stuff because I was at Orlando Regional for the Pulse shooting that happened about 10 years ago now. For me, it was just another day going to work. They tried to call me in early. And I was like, no, I'll come in when I'm supposed to come in because they said it was a couple of gunshot wounds. They didn't know the scope of it. So, anyways, long story short, we get through the day, and a few months later, I start having these episodes where I get like I'm setting up a case or a surgery or whatever, and I'm like, ugh, what the hell?
Yeah.
So, and I start having palpitations and all this other crap. I'm working the weekend at this place, and it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it's usually every Saturday when you come in, there's somebody getting wheeled in with a gunshot or some ridiculous shit. It just started wearing on my soul, and where I'm coming from is the PTSD aspect of it.
You bet.
It got to the point to where it was just like I didn't want to be there. It was not. I didn't feel like I was living to my fullest as or my potential and my job. So I left there, went to a level 2, thought it would be better, and that wasn't a whole lot of help, but it just wasn't. It wasn't good. So I took 2 years off because my back was crappy. So I that's how I was able to reset my career, was to just kind of take that time off. But now I'm back, and and it gave me the ability to get out of my head, as you were saying,
You bet.
and to be able to do my job better, and I work at a great place now with a good group of people. So it's more fulfilling, and sometimes you have to figure out that way to get out of your own skull and to be able to find that reset. And
You
you were able to do that, and I mean, and I it takes a lot of balls to move all the way across the world. That's for sure. It's not anything that I mean, I don't know what that would even remotely take. I mean, me and my girlfriend are talking about at some point in our lives moving to Europe because that's where she's from. She's from the Czech Republic. So I think retirement might happen there. So
oh well.
it might not be to the scale of what you've done, but it'll be something similar. So it'll be an adventure for sure. So when people come on, I ask them 2 questions. So I'm going to ask you the first one now, and the last one will be
Beauty, Phil.
towards the end. Okay. So, what are 2 core beliefs that make you who you are?
I believe that I owe God the adventure of a lifetime.
Explain that one.
If I'm going to be given life, and life is a gift, uh, I believe that I owe God and you and everyone the best me I can be, the most adventurous me I can be. Even when you ask the question, I go, right, but what's the I could shrink down and give you some bullshit, or I can stretch and go, in this moment, I believe that my job is to give Phil and God and everyone an invitation to more adventure, because I know what hell's like. You know what hell's
Yeah.
like. And when I read Genesis, I go, you know what? Every day, God said, let's do something different. Right? Let's fly by the seat of our pants. Let's make platypuses. Why? I don't know. It'd be fun, right? Platypus would be fun. What's a platypus? We don't know yet. We'll find out. And I get if we're going to be stewards, and I'm with you. I think we're stewards. When they talk about the native peoples who own these lands, I know of no native people that speaks like that. The native peoples they get that they're stewards. If the cattle on these 1,000 hills are mine, they're mine to be the steward of.
Exactly.
And if I'm going to take some time today and have a conversation with a lovely man about unusual things, I think we owe it to the world to go, let's invite them to something way beyond the predictable. Let's invite them to discover what's actually possible.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that we as humans, again, we become stagnant in our lives. You know what I
You
mean?
bet.
I've been to Italy, I've been to Mexico, I've been to a few countries, right? But and now that this at this stage of the game at 46, I'm like I want to put miles on my soul. You know what I mean? I want to experience different cultures. And listen,
Nice.
God has afforded me the ability to do that. And I'm not going to take it for granted because just that experience, and people are they're afraid to leave that security, and I think unfortunately comfort is where dreams go to die. I saw this video of an older couple. They were on one of those gondola rides, in Venice, and they were just assed out. So that to me is like I want to do this while I can still move and still enjoy it. And to further your thought is I think where people you're not going to get out of life alive, right? It's just not going to happen.
Absolutely.
So put some miles on your soul. And everyone thinks that we need to have these like well preserved bodies and all this. Like, I mean, if you want to have a cigar, have a cigar. If you want to have a drink, have a drink. But obviously, do so in moderation so you don't hurt yourself. But I think living a life of regret is probably one of the worst kinds of hells there could be. I don't, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't have morality or you shouldn't have some self control, because you should. But I think that, it's just this idea that I'm going to live forever. No, you're not, So eat the cheesecake, go to take the trip and
Yeah,
put it
yeah.
on a credit card and pay it off, that kind of thing. I mean, it's probably shitty, financial advice, but the experience will last you a lifetime in memories.
The near death experience. You want to know what's more terrifying than that?
Hmm. What's that?
Watching people have near life experiences.
Ooh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Oh my God, Phil, I go to the pool and people want to talk about Trump or the weather or something. I said, listen, you know what, y'all need a real problem. They need a real
Yeah.
fucking. We need saber-toothed tigers, right? Yeah,
Right.
and some laugh, some don't. But I said, listen, you've got me, I've got you, and because I talk funny, you want to talk to me about a funny guy.
Right.
I want to talk to you about somebody lovely called you. And these people, they hunt me down because they know I'm not there to talk about stuff that I don't want to talk about that. I want to
Yeah.
touch
And that's the biggest problem. It's the great distraction, right? Especially here in this country. Yeah.
the great distraction. Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go.
And that's all it is. And it's literally this shit of how they can pit black against white or brown against white just to make us so we don't pay attention to this Epstein file bullshit. I am so sick and tired of hearing about it. I could vomit because everyone thinks that prosecute them. It's never going to fucking happen. So just don't waste the brain power in thinking about it. Go plant a tree or something. You know what I
It's
mean?
the
Do
great distract. Well,
Yeah.
you know where dreams go to die
Yeah.
in Distractionville. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
let me watch cat videos instead of talking to these cool cats.
I've told this story before on the show, but I'll tell you because I haven't told you yet. We was coming back from Mexico in 2008. I'm talking to these two people in line for 10 minutes and they're going along with it. And they weren't saying much, but they were going along with it. And my first wife is like, Phil, she's like, come here. I'm like, yeah, they don't speak English. They're Italian.
Beauty,
And I just, and I was
even
just,
better,
yeah. And
even
I was
better.
like, this is fantastic. So that just should tell you the kind of person I am. Like, I've never met a stranger. I love talking to people. This is why I'm doing this thing, because I want to know what you've been through, what has made you who you are. And I don't think we do that enough. I think because we're worried about stupid things like jealousy and pettiness, and this person might have a little bit more than me, but I try to avoid those things because the only thing it breeds is resentment and hate, and we got enough of that shit.
Yeah,
There's what kind of anecdotal. Is the outback as dangerous as they say it is with all the snakes and shit?
I tell you what. So when I moved here, so I come from the backwoods of Pennsylvania. We got rattlers, copperheads, that big brown spider thing, that kind of stuff. And I moved here and I figured, yeah. We got snakes, we got spiders. All right. Well, the scary looking spider, it doesn't do nothing. It's those weird ones that you can barely see. They will screw you up. But
Really?
we, but we've got snakes. We've got three of the deadliest snakes in the world are in my neighborhood. Right.
Jesus Christ.
And so we get this little thing called a dog. Right. So we get our dog. And then I discovered we got these things called big snakes. So I get on the internet like I do and I start searching because somebody told me there's a guy that trains your dog to be terrified of snakes. Well, this is the middle of, I don't know, September, and they do that in October. Right, right. So I call the guy up. I say, hey, listen, my name's Mr. 2020. You're Raymond Hauser. You're the snake man. Yeah, I think you're a nutter and your website sucks, but I think you're the guy. Seems like you're the number one guy in Australia and you live 20 minutes away from me. So what are we going to do? And so we have a chat. And he says, well, I got a class coming up and I got this other thing coming up. And it's all in a couple of months. I said, you're not listening to me, Raymond. What I want to do is I want to protect my dog. And he said, well, I really wouldn't do the training thing. And we had our reasons for that. But he goes, if you want to learn how to deal with venomous snakes, we can do that. He's like, cool. How much? $500. So I take him $500. We go over. And the first thing he does, so we sit down and he's telling me, pain equals bite. That's the number one equation. Always remember, pain equals bite. So we're just chatting, and he starts covering me with snakes. He's getting snakes out of cages and just covering me with them, and I'm just looking at it. All right. So he wanted to make sure I wasn't going to freak out. And then we spent the rest of the day playing catch and release. We would take live venomous snakes, and he would show me how to catch and release. And at the end of the day, he gives me a certificate and some other stuff, and he goes, you can apply to the state now and be a certified venomous snake catcher. And I said, Raymond, I don't want to be a snake fondler, right? You can catch or fondle them, but I just don't want to be afraid of them.
Right.
I want to understand what may kill my dog so
Mhm.
that I can keep my dog alive.
Correct.
And talk about an adventure because we've got some dangerous critters around here, but we also got this thing called an echidna. Do you have any idea what an echidna is?
No.
Now, so an echidna, in my experience, is like a little upside down porcupine thing laying in the game laughing like a 3-year-old. Because
Okay.
I'm out in the garden one day and I'm trying not to get killed by a snake or a spider. And, my dog Emmett thinks he's a police dog. He's only a little white thing, right? Lost most of his teeth now. He's pretty cool, right? And so this is back when he's a puppy and we're going on routine patrol because that's what I taught him. Emmett, we do routine patrol. We're police officers. So we're doing this and I hear this laughter like a little kid. And so we're making sure there's no snakes, staying away from spiders. Spiders taste like chicken. Y'all know this. Hi, Emmett. And then I hear this laughter, and I'm like, hold on. What? How's a little kid in my stream? And I look down, and there's this little thing, and I don't even know what it's called. But I go, oh my God. And I find out it's an echidna.
Okay.
Again, something else. I think that was made on day 4.5 in Genesis. We can look that up because we're that guy. But it's interesting. Australia is really obsessed with trying to do things that sound green. I don't think we actually do much that is green, but we're obsessed with doing things that sound green. The scientists on the internet, and we both discussed the nature of the internet, more new species, you can try to spell that, I can't. More new species are discovered in Australia than any
Mhm.
other place in the world.
Right.
So either we're the launching pad and shit's still getting spit out here. Or we're just curious enough to go, radio, right? I know the snake's trying to kill me, but look at that. What the hell is that?
Right.
Let's put that in a box and find out what it is. Let's kill it and find out what it is. Right?
Right.
Just like dating. So it's like
Just like dating. That's fantastic, man. Yeah, I've never been. It's on the bucket list to go, but it's just that flight just scares the shit out of me.
well, you have an alternative. If you go to Google Maps
Mhm.
and you type in kayak trip to Australia, it's a long kayak trip, but it is possible. Now you would have to go through the Suez Canal, I think. Panama. No, you'd have to go through the Panama Canal. But it's a long kayak trip. But Phil, you come down here by law, you're not allowed to come to Australia without A, bringing me a few smokes, and B, showing up here for some meat. So,
Absolutely.
all right, that's the law. We've laid down the
Sounds like a
law.
that sounds like a
All right.
plan, brother. Absolutely.
My God. All right. I am a consummate flirt.
Okay.
All right. You've probably noticed because so wait, I get to explain to people what flirting is. And
Yeah.
flirting is, by definition, in my world, flirting is what is stretching into what's possible. So I meet a human being and I convert them from one camp to the other, future friend to friend. I think the biggest problem in your country and mine is fun deficit disorder.
Okay.
And what we need, the cure for fun deficit disorder, is flirting. Can you flirt with a puppy dog, with a 7-year-old, with a 77-year-old? Can you? So we have these eggs. Can I tell you about eggs in Australia? So my wife goes nuts. She does. And she wants me to get these eggs called honest eggs.
Okay.
And the honest eggs on the front of the carton, it says honest eggs.
Okay.
And they're like 72 cents more than any other egg, but I don't care. Right. So I go and I get and I go to the egg place to get the honest eggs, and there's always someone nearby. And I end up going, look, excuse me, sir, have you seen the honest eggs? No, what are you talking about? Check this out. Right. And I show them the outside, honest eggs. Watch what's inside. This is so cool. Ready? Okay. So I open up the thing and you see, what do you see? So I'll tell you what I see. Not one politician. There's not one fucking politician in this box. Right. So this is just one of my routines. The employees they avoid me when I'm near the egg thing. I make all kind of friends. So this chick's next to me one day, right? Probably Italian, Greek, something like that. And I go, excuse me, ma'am. Right? Have you seen the honest eggs? What? She honest eggs. Check this out. And I go through the whole thing, and she's just laughing and smiling. And she goes, "No speaky English." She had a great time. Yeah, I had a great time. Yeah, she had no idea what I was talking about. And the old guy next to me just shakes his head, because I've probably grabbed him a couple times.
Uh-huh. That's
But
fantastic.
I really think we came here to be friendly and to flirt and to, because if we can do that, we can get out of our own way.
I agree. I think also just opening yourself up to the possibility of something new. Given people's past with trauma and hurt, that's why people drink, right? To numb the pain. Up until 2 years ago, when I met my girlfriend, Veronica, I was very much a guarded individual because of what I've been through. But she has brought me out of that. And she has, as I've said before, loved me in the right places to get me where I need to be open to making friends because I have huge trust issues. My problem is I want to see me and other people.
You bet.
And that's the thing is like, so I expect me out of somebody else because I'm loyal to a fault. If you need me, I'm going to be there if I can. But sometimes I don't get that back, and that's where it becomes more painful. So I think that's where we're at with this idea of not wanting to go out into the world and to meet people and to talk to cool people and all that because there's a lot of pain involved sometimes when you make a friend and you lose a friend. But I think that mentality that you have is super cool, dude. It's like you're not afraid to talk to a stranger. You just want to make as many friends as you can, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's the world needs more of that now than ever. Because we have so many things that divide us in this world, and the world's ugly most of the time. And to further your point, it's we don't I don't want to sound all hippie and cheesy and shit, but I'm going to. We've forgotten how to love each other,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and that's exactly what it is. Is like we've let external factors say, hey, we're going to be divided, and here we are, and we're divided. So we've got what we want. What do you think the key is for us to get past this disconnect with each other? What do you think would help solve that?
One of the younger lifeguards says to me, "Will you teach me how to talk to people?" Because he can't. And I flirt with everyone. I don't care. Your ass is mine. All right.
All
You
right.
walk into my airspace, I'm like an AWACS with an F-16, right? Like, you beep, 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 get go, right? Launching some air. So, and that's just my attitude. And so I asked, what have you done so far? And he tells me, oh, he's tried to learn some of the pickup artist stuff and all that
Yeah.
bullshit. No, no, no. Don't do, never do that. Never. I said, the only thing that's worth doing in this world is becoming infinitely curious about them. Because if I become infinitely curious about you, I'm not worried about whether or not I have self confidence.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So I'm infinitely curious about this guy named Phil Young. I'm infinitely curious about how we're going to dance. So I said, "Do you want to know how to make this practical?" Of course they do. And I set him up for it. Hey, are you curious enough to find out how to make this practical? Yeah, 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 yeah. All right, I'm clever. And I say, listen, give a genuine compliment, ask a genuine question. If they can be about the better. And so I meet Mrs. Old Lady Friend, who's not a friend yet. And I go, oh, wow, I love your earrings. Did you make them? Oh, my daughter did. Oh, wow. Is that what she does full time? Is she a professional earring maker? Did she get that from you? And the next thing you know, it's 40 minutes later and I made me a friend.
Yeah.
And she exercised and said, wow, I've never had that good of a time exercising.
Yeah.
And I go, cool. But that whole thing of people are so confident about their argument that they have this argument in the way of this.
Yeah.
Can I become so curious about Phil Young that I can't help but and it started right from our beginning. Oh wow, there's your guitars, cool, right? And you start telling me about you and your guitars and shit, and it's like that is connection leads to connection. And can I ask a question? Can I be sincere? You got my daddy's beard,
Oh, really?
yeah, and that means heaps to me. It's like I'm talking to someone that looks like my dad.
Oh, wow. Thank
And I
you.
can remember when my dad was about your age because I was younger, and it's like, and my dad is where I get a lot of this from. My mom and my dad both. They're two people that don't get along, but they made this mix up called me, and I wish they got more curious about each other, but that's okay too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Are they still with us? Your folks?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They're both sticking around, which is good.
Good. Yeah, that's always good. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. The second question.
Dear.
Yeah, here we go. The dreaded
All
second
right.
question.
Oh no, the dreaded second question.
So, okay, I asked this everybody comes on the show. You're ready to shove off the mortal coil, and you're about to go to the next life. What do you want to be remembered for the most?
Watch me find it. I gotta find it. If it's pre rehearsed, it's bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
How I said goodbye.
Yeah. And what do you mean by that?
I don't think I'm gonna resist death again. Yeah, I
Mhm.
didn't the first time.
Right.
Why do it the next time? I just think, Phil, if I'm known for just actually living life, and that enables me to just walk up to death and go, all right, that's cool. Let's see what's on the other end of this cookie jar. And
Exactly.
and and I like I said, like for years, Phil, I didn't talk about the NDE because there's nothing about it. But it fascinated me because when people found out, oh, tell me about your near death experience. And I just want to know what's in the way of you having a real life experience. I want you to stop having a near life experience. Come on. And I think so if we could drill into it, I'd like to be known as the guy that helped people have more real life experiences.
I may have said this in another way earlier, but if I did, oh well. People don't know how to live. He's a controversial figure now because of what he's done, but Vince McMahon, the guy that used to own WWE, he said what he does is he wakes up every morning and he grabs life by the throat,
You
and
bet.
he takes it and he wrenches every ounce of life out of life every day. He chokes it from life because when you're everything's said and done, we're all going to meet our maker, right? And as you look back and go, I was as good as I could have been with what I was given. That's that for me. That's how I want to be. I want to look back and say, you know what, I did the best I could. I helped people along the way. I loved a bunch of people, cared for a bunch of people, and that's it. And it's just I'm also the believer that when the time comes, remember me, but let me go. Don't hold on to me.
You bet. You bet.
Because I don't want to be a millstone around somebody's neck holding them back. But to be able to live life to the fullest and that doesn't come from a monetary standpoint. That comes from a philosophical one. Like, don't let your means influence how you live. It's like enjoy a sunset, enjoy a sunrise, enjoy a walk in the park with someone, or talking to a stranger on a park bench. That's what life really boils down to. Is but I think there's just so many different factors in our lives these days that make us hesitant to talk to people because I'm guilty of it too. I was in New Orleans a few years ago. My first introduction to Bourbon Street was somebody getting knocked out. You know what I mean? Like
Sweet.
I'm driving around the corner and I see this dude just blam get blasted and he's fucking out cold, dude. So I'm like, so at that point, I was with my ex-wife and my head is on a swivel, brother. And and my hackles are raised and this guy comes up to me and I was like, get the and I feel bad for that because the guy was just trying, he wasn't asking for money. He wasn't asking for anything. He was just wanting to say hello, So I think when we get to a certain level of mistrust in our lives, we put blinders on and we get tunnel vision and but it's basically a fight or flight response, and it's just not, and it's like, it's not healthy to be that way because it spikes your cortisol and it makes you miserable.
So they talked me into teaching kung fu again.
Okay.
I've got a history of going, you fucking people aren't doing anything. I quit teaching, and then I disappear for a year or two. My king comes and he goes, look, I got a group of guys. I said, right. So we get the group of guys together. We're training in a closed city park. Everyone's wearing camouflage because that's the rules. Yeah, because we want to train very like real world awareness, right?
Mhm.
Always not just focused on your partner, but focused on everything in the universe.
Right.
I said, okay, let me ask you guys an embarrassing question. Righty? When's the last time you touched your willy for fun? I'll look at me like I'm nuts. I'm like, what? I said, listen, you might think you're here for kung fu. As far as I'm concerned, you're here for radical honesty.
Yeah.
And if we're going to have radical honesty, which involves situational awareness, how to interface with another human being, especially when they're trying to take your head off, we got to be honest. We're fucking guys. When's the
Right.
last time you're really for fun?
Right.
Right. And they all do that. Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, now we can get somewhere in life. Because if you can be that honest with another human being, and
Right.
that, I mean, you probably don't want to do that at Burger King or
No.
McDonald's, right? Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. Yeah. Do you want fries with that? Let me ask you a question, right?
I think that might be a felony, 20.
Yeah, that might be yeah, yeah, it might not be a good thing to do in Florida, right? But if we can find ways to really open up, because what's going to happen, and it happened to you and it happened to me, I closed down so hard, so fast. It was all a fucking yeah. They say in a near death experience, you see it, you go through a tunnel, you do it. Or with PTSD, you live life in a tunnel. Ooh, can we open up our eyes? Can we develop a soft eyes so we can actually hold each other? Can you touch someone with your eyes? Can
Right.
you bathe them with your words? You do it. I got it on our first chat. You didn't make eye contact. You touched with your eyes. And when you speak, you bathe with your voice. And it's not a persuasive thing. It's called a I'm honest to God beholding you. Years ago, I go to the Bahamas, right? And in the Bahamas, so my wife at the time and I would get in a little rental car and they're buzzing us down the road. And I asked, I mean, they're going like 70 miles an hour down the road, other cars coming at them 70 miles an hour. I said, can I ask you a question? He goes, no problem. I said, what side of the road are we supposed to be on? Because everyone was driving everywhere. And because they were so clicked on, it didn't matter. They didn't have road rules that I could tell. They also didn't have road rage. They were just all in the moment. I go back 10 years later and now they're all driving in lanes and a lot slower. They're hesitating, probably because some people died. You and I, everyone starts out with this wide open. And then some of us, we walk into situations like I say, hey, Phil, no little boy dreams of growing up to be a prison guard. Right? You got to sell your dreams to do that, dude. And then you just for fun, 4 months in, we get the old head kicked in. That was fun, right? Uh, Nobody plans for that. But when we walk into that and we end up in that and we're really willing and able to throw down when it's not called for, we get to learn how to love, period. And I hear you. I see you. And here we are flirting. We are what is, stretching into what's possible. Let there be light. Let there be platypuses. You know what else we could do?
Mm.
Let's make pineapples. Why?
Right.
I don't know. Something
Because
to do
we can, damn it.
because we can. We're gonna make up pineapple, right? We do what we do.
We do what we do, brother. All right, man. Well, where can people find you if they want to have a chat with you?
Anywhere. Mr. 2020 is pretty easy to find. I've got a zillion websites, but the quickest one is probably my name, Mr. 2020.com, mr2020.com. Uh, there's and just find me anywhere. Send me a message. I'll write back, and if I don't, bug me again because I missed it.
There you go. All right. Well, I want to take time to say thanks for coming on to the show. This has been an excellent conversation, man. Sharing your life and what you've been through and sharing your journey has been fantastic. And I think you're a special person. Like, there's not a lot of people out there like you. It's really cool. And you can find my show on YouTube and Spotify. If you want to get at me, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. And thanks for listening, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Phil.